Hi, everybody, and welcome to the live sprint for the Career Writer session. Nice to see you here, Cora. We're just having these for a few days while I've got to get caught up on a proposal that I have not finished. I need to get done and out the door. And so I thought I would do some kind of an accountability session every day that I can between here and when I finish that proposal, which is hopefully before I leave on Wednesday for the Moonlight Magnolias conference that I'm speaking at. So we're going to have one today. Tomorrow, we have our regular writing sprints on Friday. Monday is manuscript feedback day, and I'll give you the link to submit your manuscript for your 200 words for feedback. And then we'll have another one of these on Tuesday. And then I'm driving to Atlanta on Wednesday, so I won't be able to have one. I'll be in the car for like 8 hours, 9 hours. Oof. I love to drive, but it's a long time, and Atlanta traffic's not fun. So these are basically accountability sessions to also ask your questions about having a career as a writer, like how you juggle all the things or how you figure out what the best path is for you. Different tips and tricks that I've learned over the years in order to balance my income, because I have worked full-time as a writer for, I don't know, more than 30 years, a really, really long time. So I have not had to, thankfully, knock on wood, have a real job, quote unquote real job, in more than 30 years. So I'm super proud of that. And nice to see you, have a Mo and Heather. You guys, it's great to see you in here. The other thing I wanted to let you guys know about, which is before anybody else knows about it, is that I am going to launch the Writing the Compelling Romance Novel course on October 3rd. And I had like a little early bird link here. So I decided that I would give you guys an extra 10% off the early bird pricing, which if you're on my Facebook, then you know I haven't decided what the price of the course is going to be yet. But if you're on the wait list before October 3rd, you don't have to buy the course, but you can have an extra 10% off. So I will send the people on the wait list a coupon code for extra 10% off. Let me give you the little link to I keep pulling up the wrong file, give you the link to the wait list for the course. So this is going to be a 10-week self-paced course with 10 videos and 10 handouts, more than 10 handouts actually, and 10 brand new videos that are not on my YouTube channel that are specific for writing a romance novel. Because if you want to make a career out of writing romance, which is more than 50% of the market, then there's some different things that a romance encompasses that a regular novel does not. And so I did an entire course all around writing a romance novel. So I talk about how to write a plot and how to balance that with the romance and all of that stuff. So if you're writing that genre, this would be a great course for you. It's got 10 sections, 10 lessons. There's multiple little sub lessons within those 10 lessons, and you can go through it at your own pace. People that sign up for the course will get lifetime access to it. So you'll be able to go in and keep watching the videos or download the handouts or whatever when you want to. Nice to see you here, Raz. Thank you for joining us for the first time. These are, in case you didn't know, these are like little temporary ones that I am doing every single day for half a mode. Yes. So okay, let me back up to the course. So it doesn't matter where you live or when you access it. Once you get access to the course, you buy access to the course, everything is loaded in my community, and you just go in and access it whenever you want. You can go in 3 years from now and say, okay, I'm going to go through the course. Like I downloaded a masterclass from Harlan Coben, and I don't think I've had time. I think I did it a year ago. I haven't had time to go in and get it. You can access it whenever you want. This will not be live. They're pre-recorded videos that are specific to writing a romance novel and lessons that are specific to writing a romance novel. So you guys will be able to access it anytime you want. Still working out what I'm going to charge for it as I put it together, because there's a lot of materials in there, and see where we go from there. So if you get on the wait list, you get an extra 10% off if you choose to buy it. Anyway, so these are like a little extra writing sprint thing that we're going to do from here until Tuesday so that I can get my proposal done and out the door, hopefully before I leave for Atlanta. And Cora says she's romance mixed in with whatever genre rather than pure romance. And I think that this can still be helpful because it talks about the romantic plot line, and in a regular romance, the romance has to be more, the hero and heroine have to be together more than 50% of the book, and you really just don't want them apart for the whole book. Now that said, there are romantic books and romantic books that movies that have broken that mold, like Sleepless in Seattle. They are not together until the very end, but they are she's thinking about him, so there's still some interaction in that. And have short commercial fiction romance books yeah, it's a slightly different approach, but it's just condensed. So you will have in the romance course, you guys will have your own like little community where you'll be able to ask me questions like, how do I tailor this to fit a short romance? I've written a number of those for Harlequin Mills and Boone and Berkeley and Hachette. I've written a number of these little shorter novellas and little short stories and 1,000-word romances and things like that. I've done a lot of those over the course of my career. Do not count the little 1,000-word ones in my 85 books. But those have a slightly different structure because you've got so little time. Everything has to go in there and get through pretty quickly. As a side note, the best kind of romantic trope that works for a really short romance novel is a second chance love, because these people already have an existing history, and so it's a lot easier to have them fall in love. Okay, so let's get some writing sprints done so that I can get my proposal done and tell my agent, yes, it is coming. We're going to have 15 minutes here. And if you guys have questions on your career or planning a career as a writer or whatever, drop them into the comments. Friday is our kind of more general writing discussion. So this is more geared towards the writing career part. And I'm going to play some music. You all are welcome to turn it off on your end. I'll be back in 15 minutes and then we will chat again. It always goes so much faster than I expect. Nice to see you here, Jenny and Cheryl. So good to see you. And Cora said, as far as writing career goes now, it's more about finding the right publishing route, very heavily leaning toward non-traditional for 3 reasons. That sounds good. I think that everybody takes a different path and a different route for different reasons, right? That just seems pretty much like obvious. But you have to decide where you are at in your life, where you want to go, and what you're comfortable with too. Like I said yesterday, I really like this quote unquote security. It's not much, but the quote unquote security of an advance and a deadline. I need a deadline because I will procrastinate like crazy or find 12 million other things that I need to get done instead of working on the book. Hence why we're having these daily sessions, so I get it done. Because otherwise I'm just not as driven as I would be if I was just working for myself. And it's funny because I run my own company. I make my own deadlines for everything that I do with clients, and I'm very good with those. But for fiction, I just don't feel that impetus to get the book out if I'm just relying on myself. So I need somebody on the other end waiting for something to show up. Before I was published, before I had an agent and an editor and deadlines, I had a critique partner, and we met every single Friday afternoon. And we always brought, like, I don't know, 10, 20 pages for the other person to read. That really helped me stay on track when I didn't have an editor waiting on my books, because I'm the kind of person that does not want to show up empty-handed and be the only person that didn't bring pages. And so I would always have pages on Fridays. Even if I whipped them out on Thursday night, I would always have my pages on Fridays. So if you struggle with kind of keeping on track with that deadline thing, then something like this or having a critique partner can really help. Nice to see you, Myopic Dreams. And one of the things that I'm thinking about doing in January, probably, or maybe November, I don't know. It depends on what you guys think. I might put a poll up on the channel. November is National Novel Writing Month, but it's also like a super crazy busy month for most people because you got Thanksgiving. I know I have a couple of trips that month. I'm hosting Thanksgiving at my house this year, so I've got to cook for a ton of people. But I was thinking about doing some kind of a writing challenge, maybe for a couple of weeks, either in November or in January, or doing some kind of something for NaNoWriMo National Novel Writing Month in November. It's funny, I've never actually done a NaNoWriMo because I've almost always been on deadline. So I've had a book I have to get done in November almost every single time. And assuming any of these proposals goes well, I'll probably be working on a book that will be due in a few months. But I'd like to do something for you guys to kind of have the accountability, you know, maybe another level of challenge and that kind of thing. And November is let's finish this novel for me, novel month for me with Cora. Yes, I get that. I get that. And Half a Mo, writing a second chance romance right now. Great to have all the history to play with, but not sure if I've swamped myself with too much history, right? It's good to have it. You don't necessarily have to put it all on the page as long as you know it and it's there. That's what movies are great about, because you can see the ramifications of the history, but they don't necessarily delve into it when you study the construction of a movie. Now, that said, as I've said in a couple of videos, a lot of times there's dialogue that tells the viewer things that they would have already known as the reader. So it's the really obvious, oh, you do know that your brother is your uncle's son, you know, that kind of thing that the reader would have known and would have been brought out in a backstory. Myopic Dreams, how do you market as an author who dislikes social media? I can't share anything about myself due to safety issues and I'm shy. How do you market when you are trying to remain anonymous? Oh, nice to meet you. Good. And your name's Kat. Nice to meet you. So I think for me, it took me a long, long time to come around to social media. I'm also relatively, it doesn't seem it, but I'm also relatively private. There's the Shirley Jump author, and then there's the Shirley Jump person. And what I used to do back in the beginning was I would just share quotes. So it was basically what you call a faceless channel. And some of my clients that are very private also do the same thing. They come up with a theme around their quotes and they just share those sort of meme things. And then you don't have to put your face on it and you don't necessarily have to give away your life. I think that there is a tendency in social media nowadays to broadcast your entire life. And I have no desire to do that. I broadcast little teeny tiny snippets of it, but by no means am I vlogging about my whole life, because frankly, I don't think people care. And, I think it takes away from some of the moment. You're not in the moment then when you're sharing it. So you can do it as a faceless channel. And there's lots of videos out there about having faceless social media where you're just sharing stories or quotes. One of the other things that I found is a very clever marketing technique, at least on TikTok, is that a lot of times they share without a face, they share a snippet of a story as if it's like happening in real life. You know how like they have like the cheating husband or whatever. Like, I was on a flight and I saw this guy flirting with this woman, and if you're married to a John that was on a flight to Dallas, you should know about this. They do one of those kinds of stories, but it's actually the story of their book. So they do like a little snippet of the book, and they end it on a hook with each one of those episodes. And that's really clever. A lot of times I've read them and thought, oh my gosh, this person's life is crazy, and then realized that it's a book story. So there's a lot of things you can do as a faceless channel that work well for social media. And unfortunately, you absolutely have to make room for it, because there's no real easy way to get to readers. We're not showing up in bookstores in droves like way back when I first started. When I first started 30 years ago, book tours were it, because there was no email. I mean, I'm that old. There was no email. There was no Google. There was no social media. None of that existed. So it was a book tour. It was mailing books to reviewers, and building up that kind of cadre. The other thing that I did for many years, and I have not done in the last few years, but I did have a reader posse, and Cheryl, who's on here, was one of those, where I would send an early review copy of a book to the people that were like my really big fans of my books. And that way they would like put up a review on Amazon and sort of do a little bit of that marketing for me, without an obligation. I'd be like, you don't have to read it. You don't have to review it. I know your lives are busy. I never put any pressure on them. For a few years, I was really cultivating that street team posse kind of group, because I really wanted them to feel like included in part of a group. And that was when my career was kind of at a pinnacle and I had more time, and I didn't have a company to run at the same time. So those are kind of things that you can do without having to be, here's my life, here's my fit check for the day, here's the donut I'm eating for lunch. Like, I hate that stuff. Okay, half a mo. Seems to have fallen down that rabbit hole of creating a whole bunch of things that matter in mistake and bid to go deep. Definitely not keeping it simple, but that's okay. Sometimes you can have a lot of conflicts and layers in there. And Cora, I hear you, because social media can be such a time suck for sure. And Fitra, nice to see you. I'm so excited to have you here on one of my lives as well. And Kat said, as a faceless, you can only get so far. People want parasocial relationships. The only way to do that is to show face. I don't know about that. I follow a couple of faceless channels. And then one of the people that I followed back in the day, it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago on Instagram, was R.H. Sin. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he started out writing poetry for women who have been in toxic or abusive or that kind of situation. And it was really women empowering poetry. And it was entirely faceless. And his book sold like gangbusters. It was these little memes, and then people would make them into like little samplers and little wall art on Etsy and sell it. I mean, it went off really big. And he was completely faceless for a couple of years. And then he gradually let in little bits of his life, but very rarely did you see anybody's face, even today. So I think you can still do it. I think it's all about, how am I going to build a connection? And that is hitting on those relatable connections that we all understand. If your books are all about kind of something like finding yourself in a busy world, or finding yourself in a world that's driven by consumerism, then you're kind of going to share things that hit on that point. Because what people are looking for is not so much a face as a connection. So if you can bring something to the table, even with a faceless channel that has connection, it will be received pretty well by people. No email, no social media bliss. Yes, I agree with you. Yes, it's hard. It's a lot. And Cheryl, yeah, remembers being on my street team. And when you put your face out there, like, people feel like, hey, it's okay to say mean things to you. And yeah, Cheryl and some other people probably remember the first time somebody said something really mean on my channel. And they told me that my dog wasn't cute. Like, Daisy's not in the picture today. She's sleeping in the other corner of the couch. But how can you say my dog's not cute? My dog's adorable. Call me ugly all you want, but my dog is definitely cute. And it was like, it took me aback the first time that somebody said something. I think the actual first time was somebody saying something about my age. And it took me aback, and it took a minute just to kind of process it and sit with it and be like, this is going to happen. This is part and parcel of being on social media. And it's the same thing if I'm stupid enough to go read any of my reviews on Amazon. I try to never do that, but I had to go pick up a link for one of my books yesterday. And so I ended up seeing that there was one bad review, and it actually, they weren't talking about my book. So I hate when that happens because they're talking about somebody else's book. And that for a second, I'm just like, oh, it's really hard. It's really disheartening. So do the things that keep you healthy mentally and emotionally. Like, don't read reviews. Don't do any of that stuff. I never go on Goodreads. I never look at what people are saying about my books if I can help it. I never look at my sales ranking. I just don't look at those things because I don't want to know. If I'm number one, it puts so much pressure on me to feel like I have to be number one again. If I'm number 1,576,000, then I'm depressed because I'm not number one. So it is, I find that it is very draining. So I stay away from the things that make me feel sad or stressed or pressured. So, and yes, Cozy Mystery Writer, right? And Cheryl, what? That person is like terrible. How do they say Daisy's not cute? She's absolutely adorable. All right, let's do another 15 minutes. So I can get a little bit more done. I'm going to start writing from the hero's point of view in this one. This is a romantic suspense that I'm working on. So I'm excited to have fun with it. So we'll come back in 15 minutes. Here we go, another 15 minutes. And I managed to get some more of my hero's point of view, which is awesome. And I kind of like when I just get to let my brain just run and bring up whatever they have in their past that I want to bring to the surface. Just because I lay the backstory on the page doesn't mean it's going to stay there. But I definitely do like to have those little discoveries come out when I have them think of their parents or their childhood or something like that. I just had the hero thinking it's after 9 and it's too late to call somebody, because in my house when I was a kid, if somebody called us at 9:30, my dad's like, "Who's dead?" It was like, had to be a life or death emergency if you called after 9. And yes, I agree. Everybody should be more like Daisy. And I did think about giving her her own social media when I first got her, but then that was, how old is she? She's 5 now. And so that just seemed like too much work, says the woman who now has a channel everywhere. And then I have my personal social media, and I have my Shirley Jump author social media, and then I have the Writing Compelling Fiction social media. So poor Daisy is not going to get her own channel. And Cora, have I ever done 2 first-person point of view main characters? I have. I've done that a few times. I wasn't really a fan of it. I think I've done it like a handful of times, but I like it for particularly suspense. I think it creates more of that immediacy and that fear in it. This one I'm actually trying in first person. I had started out in third person, but it just wasn't feeling like it was moving right. It kind of felt like every other book I'd ever read. So I switched it to first person yesterday just to see how it would go, and I like it a lot more. I just think it suits these characters and this plot a lot better. So nice to see you here, Kathy, and I'm glad you love the vibe. I do too. I try to be as chill about things as possible and try not to, have too many rules and everything. Just don't be mean. That's my whole thing in life. Don't be mean. So I don't know what you guys are all writing today. Feel free to share that if you want. And if you do have any career questions, this is the day to ask them. I think we'll only do one more little short sprint because I do live in Florida. Have a hurricane coming tomorrow. I'm not in an evacuation zone. I'm not in the path of the hurricane. But if you don't see me pop on tomorrow at 1 o'clock, it's because we lost power or the internet went down or whatever. We live in an older neighborhood, and we almost inevitably lose power or internet for at least a little while. And yes, half a mo. I did say yesterday and the day before to please give it a like and subscribe if you don't already. Thank you for the reminder, because I'm terrible about asking for that. I actually just started adding like a little subscribe suggestion word at the bottom of some of the videos. I never remember to tell people to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. But yes, it does help the algorithm. And one of the things that I'm doing with this channel is trying to reach, and it says right there on my whiteboard, 500,000 people. I had said 10,000, and then my YouTube coach was like, that's ridiculous. You can hit 10,000 without a problem. Set like a really big, massive goal. And so my massive, huge goal is to have 500,000 writers that I am helping write better books. Because imagine how many good books would be out there if we had 500,000 people learning how to write good books. That would be awesome. I'm always looking for more books to read. And yay on Cheryl on just putting down 2 new scenes yesterday. And I love that you're layering, because that is the great thing to do. I love doing that. I love going back and just fine tuning it. If you guys didn't see it already, there is a 3-part revision series out there. And if you're new to writing, I should also plug my most current video, which is 10 must-know tips for writing a book. If you're writing a book for the first time, this is the most current video. And then Monday is the manuscript feedback session. I gotta find that link. So we're gonna do on Monday at 3 o'clock. I will pick a few from the ones that are submitted in advance, so that I have time to look at it, to give you guys some feedback on. I think we have 7 or 8 submissions right now, maybe a little bit more. I haven't checked in a couple days. So if you want to get in there, I would do it now, because it really helps me a lot to have it in advance so I can have a second to think about it. I'm much better if I have a minute to think about what I want to say to you than rather to trying to do it on my, like right there on the screen, especially if I'm tired or whatever. And yes, editing is never fun, my cat. Cheryl and Shirley, what do you come back in to layer in after the first draft? So what I come to layer in is all the stuff I talk about in the revision 3-part series that I ran a couple weeks ago, or a 3-part series on how to revise your novel. I look for all of those things. I have like this little list of 10 things that I like to look for, which I talk about in those videos. And I really like to layer in the emotion. I just finished recording a video on that for the romance course about layering in the emotion. And thank you, mystery writer. I hope 500,000 is doable. It is hard on YouTube to be seen above the algorithm. Like a video will do really, really well, and then YouTube will, like, I don't know, stop finding my audience. I'm not quite sure what happens on the YouTube end, but then it just flatlines. And I'm like, hey, like, 10,000 people liked it. What the heck? So, and yes, emotion, emotion, emotion. How can you, and this is like a preview from the romance class, how can you make that setting mean more to the character? How can you make that the things that are in that room mean more to the character? How can you add some poignancy or some sadness or some drama, whatever you're trying to add to that scene, or even some comedy? A lot of times I just kind of have my character look around the room or open a box or open a door. Like that's one of those little things you can pull out of a box of writing prompts I used to have. And I will think about, what did they find here and what does this mean to them? And that can add some emotion to it. All right, let's do, this is a great question. How many books do I have to write before I feel confident in my writing abilities? Okay, I've written 100 or more. I've published 85, 87. I don't know. I say 85 because it's a good number. I think I've actually published 87 or 88, and I'm still not confident. So maybe 150. I know what I do is I know that I know how to put a story together. I know that I can eventually pull it all together and make it good. But every time I think it's going to be a piece of crap. And every time I look at a book that came out even last year, I think, I could have done so much better than this. So never. We're all like that. But here's the thing. And this is one of the t-shirts that we have on the store. I think it's on, I have 2 stores going right now, and I'm having a whole problem with Shopify liking YouTube, so it's not on my channel yet, but it's on my circle community. I have a shirt coming that says, feel the fear and write anyway, because feeling the fear and writing anyways is a big part of how you get from where you are today to where you want to go. So even if you feel like your writing is crap and you're never going to be a good writer and nobody's ever going to read this book and the reviewers are going to hate it and you're going to get a billion 1-star reviews, you have to write anyways. You can use it to paralyze you, or you can use it to drive you to be better, to learn more, to try harder on the page. And I tell everybody, like, this book that came out last year, that is the best I could do at that particular moment in time with the skills that I had at that moment. Will I do better tomorrow? I sure hope so, because hopefully I'm going to learn more and then write stronger and read other people that inspire me to be stronger and better. So confidence, we don't know her. Yes, I think that's hilarious, Kat. Absolutely. I think every writer is plagued by insecurity. I think it's just part and parcel of the job, and you have to learn to show up every day anyways. When I started treating this as a job where I showed up every day and I wrote, whether the writing was good or bad, it helped a lot in getting closer to my goals of treating it like a career and making it a career. So I guess if this is because we're now at the end of the hour, the piece of advice that I want to leave you guys with is that you have to treat it like a job, and you have to treat the book like a product, because everybody in the world sees it as a product except for you. You see it as your baby and your creation, and I totally get that because I love my books too. But if you show up like it's your job every single day and write something and not worry about whether this is going to be the right words or you're going to change them or whatever later, just show up and write something, you will get to where you want to be. It's when you stop showing up at the page that you don't get anywhere. So know that there will be days when the writing is easy and days when the writing is hard. I don't believe in muses. I don't really believe in writer's block. I believe that I have days that suck and days that are good, period, like any other job. So just keep showing up at the page, you guys. Keep showing up for things like this and get that community built so that you have some accountability. So, and why does my brain think mixing the alphabet letters to create sentences about to get eaten by a bear? I love that. My Goodreads says I have 413 books, and that's because I've got 85 books published, 85, 87 published in 24 countries. And some of the books are reissues. So my Goodreads will have like the original, The Bride Wore Chocolate, which came out with Kensington, and then the re-release when I got the rights back that came out by me. So in some books, when I got the rights back, I couldn't keep the title because the title was owned by the publisher. And so I had to retitle them. So out of the 85, 87, whatever number we come up with here, you'll see some that appear doubled because I've reissued them with different titles. I still have 85, 87 like original books that I've done, and then a bunch that are reissued. Somebody asked me yesterday in the comments, like, how come this book isn't on your website? And I'm like, because there's a zillion to go through, and I only put the more current ones on my website. And actually, I don't even think the most current ones are there. I've sadly neglected my website over the last year and a half while I've been doing this channel. So, was my second book hard? Yes, I did talk about my second book in one of my videos. I don't remember which one it was. My second book, I'd say, was harder than my first book. And I'm talking about published books. The first 10 books I wrote were all crap. Every single one of them was crap because I didn't really learn what it took to write a good book in the beginning. I just kept writing crappy books. They would get slightly less crappy as they went along, but I hadn't learned how to show, not tell. I hadn't learned how to have an emotional growth arc. I hadn't learned any of that. Then I sold my first book, and the editor that bought my first book didn't like any of the other 10. And so I had to start from scratch. And all I had was this idea on a cocktail napkin, and I hadn't written the book, and I had to write it from scratch. And it was probably the hardest book I've ever written because I still didn't really know how to write a book. I had done this one book that sold, and it was actually a massive revision that she kind of guided a little bit. But the second book was going from scratch, and it had to be good from the gate because it was already scheduled and it was going to be published and all of that. So it had to come out really good. And it actually, I think that fear and that insecurity that I was writing a piece of crap made the book that much better. It ended up getting picked for a selected to be part of a program where it was put in hotel rooms all across the country. And there was some other thing that it was put in. So it did really, really well. So that was good. And second published book. It was definitely the hardest one I think I've ever written because I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. Anyways, thank you all for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow, assuming I have power and internet. And if not, then I will see you Friday. So thank you for writing with me and getting my butt off the couch and onto my laptop. Have a great day.